We are continuing on my reviews of the Netflix adaptation of Avatar The Last Airbender, and today we continue with episode 3, titled Omashu. We are going to break it down and talk about it in this video. My fellow benders of all four nations, welcome to Uncle Iroh's tea shop, the Jasmine Dragon. Find yourself a seat, grab some jasmine tea, and enjoy the video. Like with my recent videos, let's see if we can hit a goal of 300 likes on this one. So first, I just want to say real quickly, if you all can please, when you leave your comments down below, keep it to just this episode. I've had some people go off and just talk about the whole of the show in my other reviews, and I would respectfully ask if you could just kindly keep the conversation to this episode that we discuss. Regarding today's episode, which is number 3 in the season, this one was now a step up from the last episode for me personally. I definitely enjoyed this one a lot more than episode 2. Of course, as I mentioned already, this one is where we finally explore the city of Omashu in the Earth Kingdom. Along with this, we also explore the characters of the Mechanist and his son Teo, Azula, Mai and Ty Lee, along with Jet and his gang of rebels. I really liked the first 5 minutes of the opening where we get introduced to a rebel group of Fire Nation citizens who for some reason think it is a smart idea to sneak into the nation's capital and kill Ozai. Of course, it goes completely wrong given the fact that Azula goes undercover to spoil their plan, and in the process of when they get caught, Ozai comes in and just completely incinerates them all as Azula looks on with delight. I thought that this was an interesting way to introduce her character, given that this is showcasing her backstory into how she came up to be, it seems. I didn't personally feel it too much from her character in this portrayal in this scene, but I got a glimpse of what I could see out of her character given how she acts. Daniel Dae Kim as Ozai, I still believe is a great casting for a live action version. I do want to touch up on something that comes after this with regards to Katara continuing her waterbending training, and this revolves around how it relates to Aang. I'm only mentioning this now because it's prevalent throughout the rest of the show, but I am not a fan of the idea that Aang didn't even try to once think to give waterbending a chance with training in the season. I really just think that they could have at least tried to do it once or twice, and it could have added something to that part of the process of what he is supposed to do as the Avatar. So with that being said, if a season 2 ever gets made, I sincerely hope that the first episode opens up with him trying to get it down. But of course, the main focus of this episode, as I mentioned already, is Omashu and the exploration of the city. From a visual perspective, I still think that this location, out of all the locations that are present in the season, is the most beautiful one visually, and I think that they nailed down the look of it, from the buildings and the landscape to even the Chute System that we all come to love from the cartoon with how it is used. As they get into the city, this is when we come to meet our first reveals for 2 characters in the Mechanist and his son Teo. I weirdly enough have not seen anybody talk about these characters at all when giving their thoughts on the show, and at least from my perspective, I do think that the actors played them very well. Of course, this is a change up from the cartoon since they are not adapting the Northern Air Temple arc, and they are just bringing these characters in to the city of Omashu. They actually even named the Mechanist himself in this episode, which never happened in the cartoon, and his new name here is now Sai. The Mechanist is not as weird as he is in the cartoon, but I do love that they fine-tuned the engineering part of his character, considering he and Sokka have their moments together as they try to figure out how his designs work and what he's building, especially with the war balloon. I'm really glad that they kept that in, because after all, one of Sokka's biggest traits in his character is his love for engineering and wanting to build things. We do also get that one clip of Azula, Mai and Ty Lee that we saw before the show released, and I've already given my thoughts on it, but having now watched the show with the context of the scene, some of my thoughts still kind of stand with how I feel about it. I think that the actress who is playing Ty Lee has already nailed her down, although I am still of the opinion that I would like to see a little more from Mai and Azula in terms of the portrayal of those characters. Something else that we get introduced to is also the character of Jet, like I mentioned, as well as his gang of rebels as they get involved in tracking down Fire Nation spies inside of the city, which leads them into the forest where they are hiding out in. So of course, this is a change up from the cartoon in the sense that they are mashing this plotline together with Omashu. I guess in some way this could be a sensible way to combine these plot lines, and overall, I will say I did like the actor who plays Jet, and I also think that his crew worked well for me as well. Those actors look like they are really taking in the roles for the amount of screen time that they were given, which was pretty much not that much at all. He and Katara do have some good scenes together. Again, I like the scenes between those two, and so knowing where this character goes, I would like to see him come back in the future. Also, can I just say, I love in the live action that Jet's hook swords look absolutely insane and so cool. I love how they did that with the touch up in live action here. Another one of the big change ups that this episode goes through with is that we actually see Zuko and Iroh go undercover themselves in Omashu to try and find Aang. This as an entire sequence in itself, given that this is the storyline of the show that Aang is a part of. They split up Sokka to be with a Mechanist, Katara to be with Jet, and then Aang to be with Teo, and then also to deal with Zuko and Iroh at the same time. The back and forth between Aang and Zuko felt like something that you would see out of the cartoon, given how playful and cartoonish the fight scenes were between them as they tried to do everything they can to not bend and show who they are, especially Zuko, who loses it and ultimately is the reason for why Iroh gets captured by the Earth Kingdom soldiers and is thrown in prison. While this is happening, at the same time, Katara warns Sokka about the plan that he had put in place to kill the king, and so they use the Chute System in this episode to help with that, and I thought that was a cool scene, even if it wouldn't make any logical sense from a physics perspective how they were able to get up there and how they were just jumping on the other chutes. I'm really glad that they did utilize that part of the city, given it is a part of its personality and the cartoon utilizes it as well, and for good and funny moments. Zuko flees Omashu, Aang has to try and repair the city's damage from Zuko, and the Earth King is saved by Sokka and Katara. Aang also gets captured and thrown in prison as well, which is again a good segue, which leads into the next episode where the story continues with King Bumi. Overall, I thought that this episode was a fun adventure type episode that they gave us exploration of with a lot of different things, even if some might not have gotten fleshed out as much as you might have hoped them to be. I did think that there were some scenes that were a little bit too fast paced for my liking, and I thought could have slowed down just a little bit. As I wrote down in my notes, I think that this episode would probably get around an 8 out of 10 rating for me personally. I think fundamentally for me, the big problems with the whole Omashu arc of the live action show come from the next episode coming up, so I look forward to speaking with you all about that one. So those are my final thoughts on episode 3 of the Netflix adaptation, and now we get to the most important part of the video, which is where I want you all to comment down below your thoughts on the episode and what I thought of it from my commentary. If you did enjoy the video or if you enjoyed the episode, give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new here, and turn on that notification bell for when I upload again in the future. On your way out of Uncle Iroh's tea shop, be sure to let him know how much you appreciate his jasmine tea and his words of wisdom that come with it. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will see you soon for more Avatar.